bearing on what you're about to relate?
I was reading a dusty almanac from one of the shelves here. It's important to keep a good library. I was looking for odd mentions of unseasonal insects, that sort of thing. And I happened upon a mention of a dancer called Miss Dot. She'd had a very strange experience by the sea a good few years ago. It all began when she was stung by a hornet.
And you were intrigued by the connection. I expect I can guess what comes next.
I followed Percy's grandma's personal timeline to that very summer, the very day that she was stung on the seafront at Cromer. I do like to be beside the seaside, especially when it's a very out-of-the-way spot, like Cromer on the Norfolk coast. Do you know it, Mike? It's changed a bit since the 1930s. That's when I was there, taking long strolls on the rock-strewn beach, demolishing fish suppers, and staying in a guest house quite close to the pier. In the evenings, I would sit in the lounge with summer breezes billowing the curtains and carrying in the faint strains of music from the theatre at the end of the pier. Every night it was the Nutcracker, performed by a cast of one on the smallest stage in Europe, suspended over the crashing North Sea. My brief foray into the past was almost like a holiday. Regaining my breath and my strength after the rigours of my adventures, I planned to be back here at Nest Cottage before long to resume my struggles with my nebulous enemies. But in the meantime, I was beside the sea, filling my lungs with clean, salty air and taking in the sights and the sounds. The Nutcracker, every night. I had seen posters for this remarkable one-woman show. Ernestina Scott, the nimblest ballerina in the world, apparently, was dancing her heart out on the stage at the end of Cromer Pier. On my third day in town, I discovered a curious museum not far from my guest house. It was a musty, dusty, fly-blown place. All the glass cabinets and the windows were mottled with the dirt of ages. Even so, there was a delicious disorder about the place. Fossilized ichthyosaurs shared the wall space with oil paintings of long-dead Victorian pets. Dolls' houses sat in cabinets beside the mummified hands of cat burglars and murderers. Puppets and skeletons, coins and light bulbs, shoes and playbills, all lay higgledy-piggledy and quite undisturbed. That morning as I entered the foyer, it seemed I was the only visitor to the neglected Museum of Curios. And yet I wasn't alone. Hello? Hello? Ah, good morning, sir. Madam, what a wonderful collection of old and decaying things.
Charmed, I'm sure, sir.
Oh, dear. The curatress seemed to think I was counting her as part of the collection. Truth be told, she was rather withered and grey. She looked peaked and past her best, standing there glowering across the counter.
If you'd like to make a contribution to the upkeep of the Cromer Palace of Curios.
Well, I have here a Danobian slime dollar. I'm sure it's worth a great deal more than it looks. She didn't seem very impressed. And you are?
Mrs Wibbsey, curatress of Cromer Curios.
This was how I first encountered that delightful, fun-loving soul. Not too far away in Norfolk, but several decades back. You're not very busy, are you?
We have 2 visitors this morning. That's very unusual for us.
Is it?
People in this town are too frivolous. They come here to play in the amusement arcades, or to listen to the band in the park, or to waste their lives watching rubbish at the end of the pier. Too few people are interested in history, or in the relics of the past.
Ah, but I am Mrs Wibbsey. I'm very interested indeed. You might even say I am a relic of the past.
Really?
Or the future. Who's to tell these days?
I see.
I watched with great pleasure as she stowed away the Danobian slime dollar in a cash desk, and I proceeded into the museum for a good old mooch about. I was just examining an alarming contraption for predicting storms when I became aware of the museum's other visitor that morning. Hello, I'm the doctor.
Oh, good morning.
Look at this. It's from the 18th century. They thought that if they put leeches in these little bell jars, they would dance about as if there was an electrical storm coming, and that would somehow set off a kind of alarm system, and amazing ingenuity. Preposterous, of course. Hold on. Don't I know your face? I never forget a face.
Would you leave me alone, please?
I've seen it on the posters all over